In March of 2020, Lillymo Games took us back in time with Twin Breaker, a Sacred Symbols Adventure. It was a nice throwback to retro brick breaker games of the past, while bringing it into the modern world of gaming. And it was a game that, while I did ultimately enjoy and obtain the Platinum for, I found it a bit too difficult and chaotic at times. Fast forward to today with the sequel Trybreaker, and it begs the question, how does this one fare? Well, let's just say it was not quite what I expected. Now, before I get into the full review, just a few things that I think are worth pointing out. I did receive a review copy from Lambsmith PR, so shout out to them for hooking this small channel up in that way. Also, I am a current subscriber to Last Stand Media's Patreon and have had Colin on the channel before. Link to that episode will be in the description box down below. But in the spirit of transparency, I wanted to make those things known, and I will do my best to remain objective during this review. Now, believe it or not, you probably wouldn't think a brick breaker game would have a story tied to it, but there's a story going on here that started with Twin Breaker and continues into Trybreaker. We meet up with Colin and Chris, who are in retirement, enjoying kind of the fruits of their labor, so to speak, and just resting and relaxing. But there's a new space anomaly that has appeared, and it's up to Colin and Chris to come out of retirement and explore this anomaly and get to the bottom of what is going on. But they can't do it alone. Well, they can't do it by themselves. They're aided this time by Dustin Furman, or as the game calls him, Big D. And right out of the gate, this game is much funnier than Twin Breaker, in my opinion. As you play through the game, you'll notice that the characters, when they talk on screen, they have different tones that are used for the characters that personally sound a lot like what Colin and Chris and Dustin kind of sound like on their respective shows. And it was just kind of funny to hear the almost Charlie Brown-esque kind of want sounds coming from their mouths as they were talking. But you have the different tones, and then you have Dustin's scandalous ship design in the game, and it's just very apparent that they really had fun with this game's story and the design and kind of messing around with things. Now, I will say that in regards to the story, that I remember Twin Breaker having a lot more text to read, but Trybreaker has scaled that back considerably to where you're spending more time playing the game and less time reading these kind of interstitial moments with the three guys, which is kind of, it's a double-edged sword in my opinion. I think it's nice because you spend a lot of time playing the game and you don't spend as much time reading these different interstitial story moments. But at the same time, I kind of feel like I could have used a little more story beats. And I know Colin has expressed frustrations on his shows before about trying to get the balance of that just right. And it's one of those things where it feels like no matter what you try, you can't please everyone, right? But I will say that here it works. I spent more time playing the game, and I think it was a good change overall. And that's kind of the main draw with brick breaker games, right? How is the gameplay? And you wouldn't think that there's much to talk about with this, right? A typical brick breaker game is you're moving the paddle below on the bottom of the screen, you're bouncing the ball up to break bricks, and that's it, right? That's all you're going to do. Well, not exactly. And this is where Trybreaker breaks the mold, pun intended, here, because what surprised me, and this is just not, I was not expecting this from this game, was that when you progress through the game, the different crew members will get separated and the levels quickly change from a standard brick breaker to throwbacks of classic retro games. 1 minute I was playing a brick breaker game and the next minute I'm playing Frogger or Pac-Man, and I'm going, what is going on here? I'm not going to spoil every little retro throwback they have in this game because I think it is well worth experiencing on your own and going in blind to a certain degree. But I will say it was really, really cool. In a lot of ways, I feel like Trybreaker is a celebration of classic video games with paying so many homages to these seminal retro classic games that paved the way for modern gaming and where it is now. It's just really cool. It's one of those things you have to play to see for yourself, and you are probably seeing some of it in this review as it plays through as I'm talking. Now, one of the big issues that people had with the previous game was the difficulty, and understandably so, because Twin Breaker it's a difficult game. There's times where you're trying to keep up with everything going on the screen and moving the two different paddles that are going on, and it can be a bit much at times, and it's a bit overwhelming. And it's one of the reasons why, while I did enjoy Twin Breaker, it was still a frustrating experience because there were some levels I felt were just a little too difficult. But it appears that Lillymo took these criticisms and used them to fine-tune Tribreaker just right. Now, the game has two difficulties, normal and hard, and personally, I found normal to be an appropriate level of challenge. It wasn't so difficult to where I was wanting to break my controller, but it wasn't so easy that I was just breezing through the game at a really fast pace. And I've dabbled in hard mode here and there. I still haven't finished the game in hard mode because it's definitely more challenging. So if you're looking for that, try hard mode. And then on top of that, you have challenges for every single level, and I still haven't completed all of those. I'm trying my best to do that. But that adds an extra layer of difficulty. So depending on what you want out of the game, you can have it be a really fun, kind of light experience, or you can have it be one of those things where if you love chasing trophies, achievements, that's there for you too. So in that regard, it caters to both casual and maybe a little more hardcore type of gamers. But still, with this game, there's still some times where it's a lot to keep track of on the screen. You might have things coming at you. You might have things trying to attack you. You might be trying to maneuver the ball in a certain pattern to get it into this certain spot. It can be chaotic at times, and this could very well be a skill issue on my part, but I found some of the later levels to be really difficult, maybe a little more difficult than what I would have personally liked. And I'm not going to spoil the final boss here, but I will say that I didn't really find it that much fun because of how precise you had to be with hitting the ball into a certain point on the screen multiple times. And sure, you can control the trajectory of where the ball's going with the bumpers, but it's not really enough, in my opinion, to make the final boss manageable. And when you throw in a time limit on there as well, it was my least favorite part of the game was the final boss. Now, this next part may come as a surprise, but I actually managed to finish the game after roughly, I think, 2 to 2.5, closer to 3 hours of playtime. Now, that might sound like, wait a minute, you finished the game that quick, but I personally found it kind of refreshing as someone who primarily plays RPGs these days, and you can see all the reviews and stuff I've done for the Trails games and the East games and some of that stuff here on the channel. It's just nice having a game that you can realistically finish and be a sort of kind of palate cleanser, so to speak. But I will say that when I finished the game and the credits rolled, I was kind of yearning for more. I think that I could have easily played through maybe 10 to 15 more levels. There is a hard mode. There are the challenges that I still have left to complete, which I do plan on going back and obtaining those. So that is something worth noting. But at the same time, do you really want a 40-hour brick breaker game? I don't think so. Or maybe you do. I don't know. Different strokes for different folks, right? And what you're probably seeing on the screen at this point is something I like to do in my reviews is show my trophy list. Now, I received a review code to play this game on my Xbox Series S, and so you're seeing my achievements. When this game releases to the public, I do plan on buying this game for my PS5 so I can get trophies over there, just because that's the ecosystem I am most entrenched in. And plus, I would like to go for the Platinum Trophy in this game, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to obtain it because... And I'm not going to spoil the entire trophy list here, but I am going to say that you do need to get 40 S ranks, which I believe is an S rank on every level in the game, in order to get just one of the trophies, which can prevent you from getting the platinum. So I'm going to see what happens, and we'll just go from there. So overall, I think Tribreaker is better than its predecessor in just about every way. The addition of Dustin and his character, the addition of the controls using the bumpers to change his pattern or his flight trajectory is really, really cool and really helped a lot of times. It kind of sped up some levels, which was really nice. I think the trimmed down story is nice, although I probably could have used a little bit more story, but I spent more time playing the game than I did reading it, and that's always a welcome addition. And I think the homages to other retro games really makes the game super fun, and it doesn't really overstay its welcome, and it's designed in a clever enough way that makes you want to come back and try to get those challenges completed and maybe try those levels again on hard mode. And I did see there was a trophy for a secret ending. I don't know how to get that, but I'm very curious to play the game some more and get that secret ending and see what that's going on. Maybe there's going to be a link to Habroxia, or maybe a tease to their next game, which I think is a RPG of sorts. So that should be pretty interesting. Now, this game is different than what I normally talk about on this channel. I typically talk about JRPGs like the Trail series or Ys, and so if that is more your wheelhouse, consider hitting the subscribe button down below. Thank you for watching my review, and if you liked this video, hit the like button down below, and let me know, are you interested in Tribreaker? What do you think of Brick Breaker Games? Leave a comment down below, and until next time, happy trails.